Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
A coalition government likely in the Cayman Islands as independent candidates dominate elections. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Thursday, May 25th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Ricardo Roberts. Thank you for joining us. Good evening. For hours after polls closed in the Cayman Islands, the question remains: who will form the next government and who will be the territory's next premier? That's because no party won the minimum 10 seats to take control of the 19-seat Legislative Assembly and form the next administration. In fact, it was the independent candidates who came out on top in the first election, in which citizens voted under the equitable system of one man, one vote. 9 of them won seats, while in the incumbent People's Progressive Movement took 7, and the other 3 went to the Cayman Democratic Party, formerly the United Democratic Party, which was the main opposition before the election. Independent candidate Kenneth Bryan pulled off the biggest upset in Wednesday's election, defeating the country's former Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Marco Archer, in Georgetown Central. Now, among those holding on to their seats were former Premier Alden McLaughlin and the party's deputy leader Moses Connell, as well as former opposition leader Makiva Bush. Bush had blasted the one-man, one-vote system on Wednesday before the results were in, saying that it did not work well for democracy in the Cayman Islands, and he had speculated there would be a low voter turnout because of it. But Supervisor of Elections Wesley Howell said he was pleased with the number of people who came out to exercise their franchise.
And our total persons polled, this includes postal and mobile voting, is 74.8. So we said we would be in that 75 to 80%, so we're just shy 0.2% of that 75. So awesome job to the staff that worked so hard today polling those people, and we're glad that people came out in their numbers.
Over in Venezuela, electoral officials have scheduled long-delayed regional elections for December 10th, but that has failed to appease protesters as a controversial special assembly to rewrite the nation's constitution is set to take place first. The Electoral Council chief says elections for that constituent assembly, tasked with rewriting the nation's constitution, will be held in July. The government abruptly postponed regional elections that the opposition was heavily favored to win last year and called off a petition drive to force a referendum seeking President Nicolas Maduro's removal before presidential elections slated for next year. Nearly 2 months of the anti-government protests have left at least 53 people dead as opposition members demand early presidential elections. The opposition is also refusing to participate in Maduro's bid to use a special Congress as a means of resolving the crisis. In a letter released last week, the nation's chief prosecutor also said she would not participate, contending that rather than alleviate Venezuela's political upheaval, it would likely only further accentuate it. But President Maduro is pressing on, outlining how members of the Congress charged with rewriting the Constitution will be selected. Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit has warned of what he says is a dangerous precedent being set in the island. In an address to the nation on Thursday afternoon, he identified that as street protests, lawlessness and violence now going hand in hand with some people expressing their views, and he's pointing fingers directly at the opposition. Skerrit said that Earlier this week, police had to deal with the mob-like behavior of political activists doing the bidding of their leaders. He was referring to scenes outside Parliament on Tuesday where protests were held in opposition to amendments to the House of Assembly Election Act.
Dominica is being black-eyed in the regional and international world by media reports of this very un-Dominican behavior that is creeping into the mainstream of society. Earlier this week, members of the Dominica Police Force were forced, once again, to restrain themselves and, by so doing, expose themselves to the real and serious threats of injury to their person and the destruction of private and state property as a result of uncontrolled, mob-like behavior by political party activists doing the bidding of their leaders.
The Prime Minister said the recent actions point to a very sad and sorry state of affairs that, if allowed to go unchecked, could lead to dire consequences in the not-too-distant future. He added that all of it is hurting the image of the country.
The Government of Dominica takes a very dim view of this unfortunate trajectory, which, it is to be noted, has hitherto been foreign to our political and cultural landscape. There have been differences of opinions before, and political parties in the past have had reason to vent and express their displeasure with or opposition to acts by or policies of the authorities. But never in our history have we had crime and violence being the first course of action by an established political party. The portrayal of Dominica as a melting pot for confusion and antisocial behavior is hurting the image of the country and threatens the social and economic well-being of our land.
Skerritt also announced that he has advised the Speaker of the House of Assembly that Parliament should be adjourned without further consideration of matters currently on the order paper.
I will not expose members of Parliament, staff of the Parliament, the media, visitors and other interest groups to threats of physical danger by mob-like rioters acting at the behest of the leader. Dominica has too painstakingly built its image and reputation for peace, civility, and tranquility for me to join with others in sullying that good name. Accordingly, I have today advised the Honourable Speaker of the House that Parliament should reconvene as agreed tomorrow morning, but adjourned without further consideration of matters of the order paper.
The Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, is reporting a slowdown in progress in the elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis in Latin America and the Caribbean. It says that in 2015, a total of 2,100 children acquired HIV, the majority as a result of mother-to-child transmission. That figure was 55% less than in 2010. But PAHO says while new cases fell by 800 between 2010 and 2011, they only decreased by 100 between 2014 and 2015. The health agency's report also stated that new cases of congenital syphilis in Latin America and the Caribbean have doubled since 2010. Up next, forecasters predict an above-average hurricane season this year. Stay with us.
Welcome to SwiftPack, your online shopping and shipping solution. Receive the best rates, expert cargo management, and exceptional customer service. SwiftPack provides secure handling of your smallest packages to your largest cargo with speed and reliability. We invite you to use our U.S. mailbox service, online shopping, ship air and ocean cargo from the supplier to your door. We handle it all for you. Get started now. Sign up for a free regular account or premium account, or give us a call on 440-6100. SwiftPack. You shop, we ship, you save.
It's another episode. Then we out on the road. This is what we love to celebrate, to celebrate. This is not Hollywood. No, we don't come out the road. Drink, drink, drink.
King Baba and Nikita. Every fact that a boy keep on calling me wrong name. But that's okay, cause that's my bitch. I don't understand how wearing a name tag on me. Don't know what to say, he's still calling me wrong name.
Don't get vexed with me. Don't say that.
Chatting CARICOM, a 4-part series on the status of the regional integration process. Your chance to get answers.
We as a small island, how do we factor into that bigger picture?
Why is the process taking so long?
While there is liberty to move among the islands, you still have some level of restriction.
Chatting CARICOM also gives you updates on recent CARICOM projects.
We're seeking more and more to engage all our partners in moving forward for the development of our region.
We have come a very long way since we started.
Join the Caribbean community and CaribVision for Chatting CARICOM, a community for all. May 31st at 8 p.m.
Welcome back. Forecasters are predicting an above-average hurricane season this year. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Climate Prediction Center is projecting up to 17 named storms and up to 9 hurricanes. It says there is a 70% chance of 11 to 17 named storms. 5 to 9 of those storms could become hurricanes with winds of 74 miles per hour or higher gusts, or higher, and 2 to 4 of those are expected to be major, meaning category 3 or higher. An average season produces 12 named storms, of which 6 become hurricanes. The Climate Prediction Center said a major reason for the projected increase in the number of storms this year is the expected absence of El Nino, an ocean warming trend that tends to reduce the likelihood of hurricanes. Other factors include above average sea surface temperatures and weaker vertical wind shear across the tropical Atlantic Ocean and Caribbean Sea. The Atlantic hurricane season runs from June 1 to September 30. Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Amina Mohammed, is warning that the escalating economic losses from disasters like hurricanes are not sustainable and can impede progress on the Sustainable Development Goals. Mohammed was speaking Wednesday afternoon at the official opening of the 2017 Global Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction in Cancun, Mexico.
Annually, disasters are costing the global economy some $520 billion and push more than 26 million people into poverty. Economic losses from disasters can wipe out the entire gross domestic product of a low-income country overnight and force millions from their homes. Haiti, for example, lost 120% of its GDP in the 2010 earthquake and 32% of its GDP as a result of Hurricane Matthew last October. And that is why the Sunday Framework puts the focus squarely on prevention.
Mohammed emphasized the need to embrace the paradigm shift from managing disasters to managing the risks of disasters, adding that it was paramount to moving on key targets of the Sendai framework. The 2017 Global Platform is expected to close in Cancun on Friday with clearly defined action plans for reducing losses in disasters. Meantime, Mohammed says her organization recognizes the political will of Caribbean leaders in addressing issues relating to disaster risk reduction. She tells CMC News that regional leaders have been at the forefront of shaping a number of global agreements, but she says the Caribbean is facing a difficult combination of high vulnerability and lack of financing. And Mohammed said the countries in the region need to continue applying collective pressure on international funding agencies and bigger countries for disaster and risk reduction financing.
But, it's double trouble for them. They are mostly mixed countries. Financing frameworks do not open up to help them where they need to be. They have a vulnerability that has not been recognized in terms of the measures that are taken in the global economy. So I think here it's not just about the leadership in the Caribbean, which must keep the foot on the pressure for the rest of the world to remember that they are vulnerable, but it's also for the rest of the world and its collective responsibility to try to help out in that. What the UN will hope to do is, again, as we have discussed with the Financing for Development Framework, the outcome document there stresses the need for us to acknowledge that we have vulnerable countries that may not be in economic brackets that are considered worthy of some of the financing that is going. So we need to address that, and it is a work in progress.
The Caribbean Development Bank, the CDB, ended its 47th Board of Governors meeting in the Turks and Caicos Islands on Thursday. CDB President Dr. Warren Smith, speaking at a news conference, told reporters there were many highlights from the 2 days of deliberations.
That are particularly memorable for me were the discussions that we had this morning with our shareholders when we talked about the future of our institution and exchanged very, very frank discussions on several matters. That's the way in which business is done in the CDB. We in the leadership of the bank, we believe that it is our responsibility to recognize the risks and opportunities that are there for CDB and to share them with our governors and to get their feedback and their response.
The CDB president said the bank, which is the region's premier financial institution, should now consider expanding its membership.
What is possible? Our charter was changed about 11 years ago. There was a change in the charter, let me put it that way, where institutions, not just countries, could become members of the Caribbean Development Bank. We at the time were targeting a particular institution in Europe, which was very, very key to us and to our credit quality and our source of funding. That did not work out at the time, but we didn't go back in and change the charter to what it was originally, so that provision is still in there. So theoretically, a Caribbean institution could join the CDB, but I'm not aware of one on the horizon at this time, which we might be here to reach out to. And that's no discredit to the quality of institutions that we have in this region, but this is the banking side of the CDB talking here, and the criteria are very, very strict.
And ahead in Newsline Sports, another former football official pleads guilty to money laundering conspiracy. That's up next in our sports segment. Stay with us.
Dominica, a true fantasy island. Whether you're in search of extreme adventure or a family vacation or a relaxing getaway, Dominica is fun for everyone. And a place where you can totally disconnect and enjoy paradise. Discover Dominica, the nature island.
Ready. It's another episode. When we out on the road, this is what we love to celebrate, to celebrate. This is not Hollywood. No, we don't come out the road. Drink, drink, drink.
King Baba and the guitar. Every fat that I go, you keep on calling me wrong name. But that's okay, 'cause that's my babe. I don't understand how we're in an entire You know what to say, he's still calling me wrong name.
Don't get vexed with me. Don't say that.
An assistant to former CONCACAF President Jeff Webb on Wednesday pleaded guilty to money laundering conspiracy charges at a federal court in the United States. Costas Takas, a former general secretary of the Cayman Islands Football Federation, became the latest official to plead guilty in connection with his receipt and transmission of millions of dollars in bribes paid to Webb. The 60-year-old Takas entered the plea more than a year after he was extradited to the United States from Switzerland, where he spent 10 months in prison after he was among the 7 officials arrested in May 2015 at a Zurich hotel 2 days before FIFA's presidential election. Takas' attorney, Gordon Mailer, said his client was the only defendant who had been allowed to plead guilty to a single charge because he's a very minor figure in this case. Sentencing in the case has been set for September 19, and Takas faces between 41 and 51 months in prison. But his lawyer said he would request that the British citizen who is out on bail not serve any more time because most of his time in Switzerland was spent in solitary confinement, which he described as a very onerous detention. Switching sports now, West Indies and other international teams are likely to welcome the ICC Cricket Committee's recommendation that an umpire's call on an LBW appeal under the decision review system in tests should no longer cost them. The sports world governing body announced on Thursday that the committee, under the chairmanship of current India coach Anil Kumble, will recommend that teams will not lose when an LBW review comes back as umpire's call. Currently, each team may make no more than 2 unsuccessful reviews requests per 80 overs during a test and no more than 1 unsuccessful review request and innings during a one-day international. Under the DRS rule, only clearly incorrect decisions are reversed. Now, if the video replay umpire's analysis is within established margins or error, or is otherwise inconclusive, the on-field umpire's original call stands, hence the term umpire's call for LBW verdicts specifically. The committee expressed unanimous support for the implementation of the long-mooted test championship, deeming that context was crucial to the future of the international game. It also reiterated its full support for cricket being in the Olympic Games. The Cricket Committee also considered the new laws of cricket and has recommended the adoption of the majority of the changes of the laws, or to the laws rather, most significantly giving umpires the power to send players off the field in response to the most serious incidents of player misconduct, such as violence on the field. All other offences would continue to be dealt with under the ICC Code of Conduct. In Trinidad and Tobago now, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley is seeking answers on how the Sports Ministry racked up a 90,000 TT dollar bill in Tobago. Rowley, who is currently out of the Twin Island Republic, has asked Sports Minister Darrell Smith to furnish him with a detailed report to justify the amount spent during his stay at the state-owned Magdalena Hotel. Smith, who was at that time attending a THA Sport Awards function, says the money spent was above board.
The Prime Minister is still out of the country, but his office is responding to revelations of alleged overspending by the Sport Ministry during a trip to Tobago. In a release today, the OPM said the Prime Minister has requested a full report from the Minister of Sport, Darrell Smith, on the recently concluded trip to Tobago by the Minister, officials of the Ministry of Sport, and the Sports Company of Trinidad and Tobago. The Minister and Ministry officials traveled to Tobago to attend the THA Sports Awards, which was held on Saturday 20th of May at the Magdalena Grand Beach and Golf Resort. According to a blog post by journalist Charmaine Babulal, the ministry paid to accommodate guests who were part of the minister's entourage, but they were not part of the official invited delegation. Invoices posted on the blog stated that airline tickets cost $3,600. 11 rooms were booked at the Magdalena Grand, costing a little over $77,000, and $10,400 was spent to rent 4 vehicles from Rolex Car Rentals. The total came up to $91,910.43. Speaking to TV6 on Tuesday evening, Minister Smith said everything was above board, including having his assistant join on the trip.
On any given day on a weekend, I could go to as much as 8 events, as you know. So once I put on something on my schedule early enough, and of course, Tobago being very, very important to us, I attended. I usually, wherever I go, I have my personal assistant, who is Cindy Cupid, who I see the list there. That's a normal thing. That's the only person that I requested to go who was not invited, which is a customary thing when a minister is going. Anyway, the other people, the communications, and the other person, I think is the PS assistant. Well, we'll have to speak to the PS, and it's normal for the PS assistant to attend with her as well.
Minister Smith has called it a storm in a teacup, saying people don't throw stones at barren trees.
You see, people inside the ministry, what part of my job was to clean up the ministry which we have. You remember how we inherited it with life sport and a number of corrupt practices and issues and a few bad elements that caused that. And what this is showing that there are probably a few of them that's still in there that may be looking to cause.
We reached out to him again today to find out how he felt about the latest development and the request for a report from the Prime Minister, but all of our calls went unanswered.
That report from Keishan Haynes of TV6 News. Over to the sports of rugby now. Guyana's national team has intensified training ahead of their all-important clash with arch rivals Trinidad and Tobago in the Rugby Americas North-South Zone qualifiers, which kicks off in June. Now, according to Rugby President Peter Green, Guyana intends to pull out all the stops against the regional giants.
Options in preparation for the important clash against Trinidad and Tobago in the Rugby Americas North-South Zone qualifiers next month. Speaking to the President of the Union, Peter Green, today, he stated that the national team has intensified its preparation.
In tuning from the last match that we played in Barbados, that's where a few tactical play-ups were a little rusty. But that's to be expected because the Barbados game was the first since last year. So what the boys are doing now is an approach to the Trinidad game, which is going to be a real tough game. So that we have to make sure they're trying out all the positions in the back line and the front row. The front row is very, very tough. But right now we're working on the back line.
And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Grow your business or promote your event through the services offered by the Caribbean Media Corporation and Carib Vision. Our distribution provides a platform on cable, terrestrial television, and websites. We cover carnivals and events from across the region. We can bring your event live and alive to the world. For music makers, program producers, businesses, we can expand your reach to in excess of 2 million households daily. Our other services include news updates to enhance your media products, studio space for program and development. We can facilitate the launch of new products and services and training. Contact us and we will help you unleash your creative ability, develop products and services, and provide the medium to watch them grow. Contact Loretta Skeet at cmccaribbean.com or call her 1-246-467-1044 or 1-246-253-3889. Call and book your carnival or event today. Chatting CARICOM, a 4-part series on the status of the regional integration process. Your chance to get answers.
We as a small island, how do we factor into that bigger picture?
Why is the process taking so long?
While there is liberty to move among the islands, you still have some level of restriction.
Chatting CARICOM also gives you updates on recent CARICOM projects.
We're seeking more and more to engage all our partners in moving forward for the development of our region.
We have come a very long way since we started.
Join the Caribbean community and Carib Vision for Chatting CARICOM, a community for all. May 31st at 8 p.m.
Again, the major developments of this day, a coalition government is likely in the Cayman Islands as independent candidates dominate elections. And in sport, a former football official pleads guilty to money laundering conspiracy. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sports round the clock, log on to CarnaNews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching. Have yourselves a good night.